Well, that is a great question, and let me first mention the two old Earth beliefs: the stream capture theory and the ancient river theory have both been scientifically debunked. It's really vital for folks to understand that right now the old Earth believers, and that's what they are, believers. Nobody saw an old Earth or millions of years of time. But right now the old Earth believers don't even have a viable way to explain how the Grand Canyon could have formed slowly. So what do? They still teach the debunked theories. But there are two very viable theories that fit the evidence and the Word of God about the canyon's formation. The first is the breached dam theory. The Bible talks about toward the end of the flood, the waters rushed up by the mountains, they rushed down by the valleys. And we interpret that as having the valleys have collapsed toward the end of the flood. I like to interpret that as the layers that were over the fountains of the deep, which have now erupted and are on top of those thin layers. Now that heavy water is on top of the thin layers that are over fairly hollow chambers, and toward the end of the flood, I think a good interpretation of the evidence is the thin layers collapsed and this jutted mountains upward and formed ocean basins as the mountains arose and the valleys sank down, and the waters rushed up by the mountains and down into the valleys, and they sloshed back and forth, laying down strata layer after strata layer. I think during this massive Earth-wide, worldwide event, the Colorado Plateau, through which Grand Canyon cuts, was pushed together. A large fault developed, and the Colorado Plateau, the Kaibab limestone, the top layer at the canyon, was uplifted. There's a fault line that runs below the fault, below the upwarp. So the mountains arose, the valley sank down. This formed the Kaibab upwarp. And water, there's two theories at this point in time. Late flood waters running off the continent were caught behind this upwarp, forming a huge lake as water or runoff from the Colorado Plateau built up behind that lake as well. And eventually the waters breached that earthen dam. The upwarp, the top of the upwarp, that Kaibab limestone has been uplifted over 4,000 feet or from around the surrounding plain. So it acted as a huge earthen dam until the waters breached that dam. The other theory is pretty much the same, with the only real difference being that the waters running off of the flood began to channel toward the end of the flood and cut through the upwarp, forming Grand Canyon immediately at the end of the flood. So the real difference is, did the canyon form right at the end of the flood, or was there a delay before the waters breached the Kaibab upwarp to form Grand Canyon in a matter of days? Both fit the evidence. Good scientists are working hard to figure out if one of those is more viable than the other. Either way, Grand Canyon obviously formed quickly, and this is why the missing 908 cubic miles of sediments from Grand Canyon are not easily identifiable. They think there are some outside the San Diego area, some outside of the Phoenix area, but they're not along the edge of the Colorado River. They're not down in the Gulf, which is where they would be found if the Colorado River dug out the canyon slowly over long ages of time.